Welcome back, one and all. It's time once again to discuss Star Trek Lower Decks Season 3, Episode 4, Room for Growth. And if you're new here, there will be spoilers, so bow out now if that's not your thing. On your way out, however, if you would kindly leave a like, share, subscribe, all of those things, a comment even, whatever you want to do, but let's get into this episode. As I said, it's the 4th episode of the 3rd season. I've got to say, the first episode of this season, the one that featured a lot of Zephram Cochrane and First Contact callbacks, very, very good in my opinion. Everything we've gotten since has kind of fallen flat and just not intrigued me whatsoever. Before I even get into that episode, I do want to lay that out there because there wasn't much here for me. It was just kind of meh. The crux of the episode, we've got two plots that are kind of intermingled. Couldn't even tell you what's the A plot and the B plot because they're both so inconsequential. So we start out in the crew quarters for all the lower decks people, and the point of this is to show that they're very crammed and there's very little space for all of our characters to do anything. And it turns out that up on the first deck, there is going to be 4 quarters opening up, and our lower decks people are trying to scheme a way to somehow get access to these quarters so that they can all have their own private suite, similar to the quarters we've seen in TNG, Voyager, where each character had their own sort of huge suite type room. That's the crux of their plan. And then that's interrupted by Captain Freeman, possessed by some sort of reality-altering mask, similar to what we saw back in TNG's Masks, or The Mask, whatever that episode was. In fact, I don't even think it's similar. I think it's the exact same thing. The design of the mask even looks very, very similar. And she's coming through, changing, warping reality to become her old castle, her old whatever you want to call it. And that's kind of where the scene ends, and we go into the credits. Coming back from those credits, the secondary plot is the ship has been undergoing severe reconstruction after this reality warping of the mask. I guess things weren't put back to the right way, and our engineering team has been working around the clock for a long damn time trying to put the ship back to rights. So Captain Freeman orders them to all go on some sort of rest and relaxation, some shore leave to de-stress. And that is the secondary plot of this episode. Our engineering crew trying to de-stress on the Dove, I believe is the ship that they call it, but we'll get there in a moment. So Tendi accidentally overhears Delta Shift, their rivals, I suppose you could call them, saying that they're going to go and hack the system and put their names in so that they're guaranteed to get the quarters. And our crew, our 3 lower deckers minus Rutherford, because he's going on the engineering mission, they're not having that. So they're going to try and sneak in and get their access to hacking the computer first, because whatever, they want these quarters. So here's the ship. There's some nice callbacks to other Starfleet ships in the background, but this head ship here is the Rest and Relaxation Ship that I guess travels around to help people de-stress in the Federation. We've got this cool callback to the animated series with, I think his name is Eric's, the character there with the 3 arms and the 3 legs. Kind of a cool thing. This is a female, and she is our chief relaxation, I guess you could call it, on the ship. And these are her assistants there. The humor, and I say that with a lot of italices here, the humor is supposedly going to be derived from the fact that the engineering crew can't de-stress. All they want to do is focus on repairing things, or doing engineering tasks, or building a new warp core, or something like that. That's the funny. And Captain Freeman is blowing her top because she just wants them to relax, and they're not doing it. So once we cut back to the ship, we discover that our 3 lower decks characters, Boimler, Mariner, and Tendi, they're going to go through some sort of unorthodox path throughout the ship in order to reach this air-gapped terminal so they can put their names down. The first stop is through an active holodeck where our doctor and our chief of security are playing out a 1920s bank robbery, all monochrome, very funny. Then they have some sort of relationship problem going on because, of course, we have to have our characters accidentally overhear a issue with a couple that's being resolved almost in a oops, that's too much for us to handle method. They get through that just when they're about to overhear something they probably shouldn't about how Dr. Tuana lost her tail. So that's the humor there. I didn't find that very funny, so I don't know, maybe this episode just wasn't for me. Then they get to this, the underneath section of hydroponics, which is where a bunch of swampland is kind of growing. We've got tendrils, roots, water, muck, mud, all that good stuff. And they determined that, there is some sort of nitrous oxide or something that's giving our characters minus -10 because Orions are immune to that, apparently. They're basically having some sort of hallucinogenic trip. And this was very, very, I don't want to say on the nose. This was very blah. Like, they could have done so much with the concept of this, and I expected them to do so much of the concept with this. I'm thinking that way over the top thing that Family Guy did probably 10, 15 years ago when Brian was on that acid trip or whatever you want to call it. That was just so much over the top, almost too much. And this episode stuck to 2 jokes, basically. Boimler here looks like he's some sort of sea creature, and Mariner's arms get extra long and wonky, and then Tendi comes in, and she looks like a butterfly. That's it. They didn't really do much with it. It was just a pit stop of very, very basic hallucinations, and that was it. They moved on to the next room, and then Boimler gets stuck in the deflector dish as they activate it for a very gratuitous scene of our 2 female characters having to strip off all their clothes to create a tether to rescue him, which, I don't know. I understand the fact that you're going to put stuff like this in the show, but it seems like they're very much overdoing it, at least in this season. They're getting our female characters almost naked at least once or twice an episode, and it just seems a bit much. Like, you don't have a lot of real estate to play it with in these very short episodes, and they're always spending at least part of it drawing almost naked women. So maybe the animators just want to do that. I don't know, but it's definitely noticeable at this point that they're just putting it in all the time. So now cut back to our characters. Captain Freeman realizes that the engineering crew is faking their results. They're not really relaxed. They engineered a way to fool the sensors. Ha ha. Hee hee. And we've got this scene here, which is supposed to show the Beta Shift, which is our lower deckers, and the Delta Shift, getting along, putting aside their differences. But lo and behold, wouldn't you have it, the very second that our characters find a way to escape this shaft, well, the Delta Squad runs ahead because it was all a ruse. They were actually just playing us the whole time. They never put their differences aside. Back to the Relaxation Ship, our engineers have created this fancy new technology in order for the captain to be de-stressed in 10 seconds. That's right, if anyone goes in this machine, it applies some sort of magic tech, and our characters are cured of stress. Such an amazing accomplishment. But you know what? It works so well that they realize if you install this on every Federation ship, every Starfleet vessel, whatever, we're not going to be needed anymore. The de-stressing crew is going to be obsolete, so they decide to throw the machine away and not tell anybody. So nothing that happened mattered. Hee hee ha ha. So our lower decks characters here determine, you know what? There's a problem. There's actually a problem. It's not 4 quarters on deck 1, it's 1 quarter on deck 4. That means we're going to have to split up the group, and that's not good. So you know what? Let's let the other group, let's let these Delta Shift bastards have it. And then they'll fight amongst themselves, and their friendship will be ruined, but ours will not. Let's take the high road on this one. And then it turns out that actually the Delta Shifters, they're all going to share the quarters. They've taken the quarters and they put 4 beds in there and they're going to share it. And our characters don't realize how they could have not thought of such a brilliant solution. Rutherford comes back from the trip and chastises them for it. And haha, that's that for the main storyline. Actually, both storylines. And then we cut to Commander Ransom ordering some fresh hot churros because there was this running joke throughout the episode that back earlier when he devolved into a caveman during some sort of shenanigans, well, he created a churro wife out of churro, like made a doll out of churros, and he has been in love with her and replenishing her with fresh hot churros ever since. That's not weird and messed up to think about whatsoever. I mean, it's kind of a throwaway joke, but if you look too long into it, you're probably going to scramble your brain. Whatever, that's the episode of Lower Decks. Not much happened. Not much was funny. It was very throwaway, and like by the time I finished the episode and went outside, I kind of forgot I had even watched it. I'm very disappointed with the last 3 episodes, I have to say. There's just nothing to them. There's no real substance. There are some cute callbacks and Easter eggs, but after that first episode that introduced us to season 3, it's just been falling flat as far as I'm concerned. I see people online are very much enjoying it, so I don't know, maybe they made a pivot this season to turn away from things that I enjoyed, but it's just not hitting the right notes for me. So hopefully next episode we'll pick things up and we'll have some more meat on the bone for this series, this season, but right now it's just there. It seems like it's just filling time until something else comes along, and that's not good for anyone. If it's just a placeholder, then I don't know what to tell you. Those are my thoughts. Hopefully you had more fun with this episode than I did. Until next time, like, share, subscribe, leave your comments below. Let me know what you thought. Maybe you can let me know where the true empathy and humor from this episode derived from. Until next time, computer and program.